He stepped off the ship in 1835 with the calm confidence of royalty. He wore elegant robes, spoke in several languages, and carried himself like a man born to rule. He called himself Prince Digismachilameo, a noble from the Ethiopian Empire, forced to flee after surviving a violent coup that killed his family. Now he was seeking asylum and recognition from the British Crown, and Britain welcomed him with open arms. The newspapers were obsessed. A mysterious African prince with a tragic past. It was the perfect story. He became an overnight sensation. The British upper class invited him to extravagant parties. He dined with lords, debated politics with scholars, and even met royal officials. His mannerisms were flawless. He knew palace etiquette, quoted poetry, even shared supposed stories from the Ethiopian royal court that fascinated historians. But here's the twist. None of it was real. He wasn't a prince. He wasn't Ethiopian. And his name definitely wasn't Deet. The man the British Empire embraced as royalty was actually Thomas Phipps, a working-class Englishman from Portsmouth. No noble lineage, no royal blood, just a bored, broke man with a dangerous imagination. Phipps had spent years studying African history, language, and customs. He became fluent in Amharic, researched court behavior, and trained his voice to mimic regional accents. He didn't just want to act royal, he wanted to become it. And for a while, he succeeded. He traveled to Liverpool disguised as a prince, hired a few struggling actors to play his loyal attendants, and boarded a ship headed to London. Once there, he leaned into every lie. He told stories of his kingdom, his escape, and how British intervention could help restore his rule. He used phrases just exotic enough to sound authentic, but vague enough to avoid deeper questioning. And it worked. The British press idolized him. He was seen as a symbol of global sophistication, a man of mystery and tragedy. For a nation obsessed with empire, the idea of sheltering an African prince was irresistible. Even top members of parliament were taken in. They discussed diplomatic options, possible aid, even formal recognition. But every Khan has an expiration date. A visiting diplomat from Abyssinia heard of the prince and asked to meet him. When they finally spoke, the diplomat immediately noticed inconsistencies in his dialect and knowledge of royal protocol. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a total fabrication. An investigation began quietly. A few questions here, a background check there. It didn't take long before Thomas Phipps was exposed as a complete fraud. When confronted, he didn't run, he confessed everything. He said the British people didn't want truth. They wanted a fantasy, and he gave it to them. The media turned on him instantly. The same papers that celebrated him now mocked him as a national embarrassment. He was arrested, interrogated, and ultimately sentenced, though not to prison. Instead, he was quietly exiled from public life, vanishing into history as a forgotten Khan man. But for a brief moment, one man stood before the most powerful empire on earth, looked it in the eye, and convinced it to kneel. Not with armies, not with money, just with belief. If you thought this was wild, there's more where that came from. Subscribe to the History Files and discover the stories they don't teach in school.